Hello everyone, welcome back to Naomi's Bookshelf. Today I'm going to do my mid-month wrap-up. We're going to go with it like a 2/3 wrap-up, I guess, and a little life update, I guess. So there will be a little bit of a timestamp situation here. I mean, I always do timestamps in my wrap-ups, but in case you're not wanting to do the life update part, that's fine. I do appreciate you watching, and I will gladly share my thoughts with you about what I have read so far. So the first thing of the month that I read was a play by Oscar Wilde. I read this play with Say Kevi. I will link her channel down below. This play was, oh my goodness, I always butcher this name. Salome? We're going with that. This play is based on the biblical story of when John the Baptist was in prison with Herod. And it is something I grew up knowing. Obviously, it's a bit of a gory story, but it's interesting. So this was for Victober, and I did enjoy it a lot. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was a very interesting play and an interesting version of this biblical story. It's a retelling essentially, and it's like one of the first biblical fiction, I guess, out there. It's very interesting. Salome is a very interesting character. She starts off being this very young, naive girl, and at the end of this very short play, she's something different. She has a lot of interesting character arcs in this very minuscule play. And also you have Herod the Great. You also have Herodias, her mother, who is married to Herod. She was married to Herod's brother before, and John the Baptist is a prophet. It had a lot of weird twists and turns, but I overall did enjoy it a lot. This is a complete work of his plays. So I'm interested to read more of Oscar Wilde's plays. I have read his novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray, before, and I'm excited to read more. I've also read The Moonstone by Wilkie with Berna from Berna's Bookish Adventures. This one was my most recent Timeless Tomes project. I had read The Woman in White before by Wilkie, and I enjoyed this one, but not as much as The Woman in White. I think this one is just a lot more character-driven in some regards, and I like a lot more plot. This one also I was reading when I was having a lot more migraines, and it was just not a great time physically for me, so maybe that impacted my reading enjoyment. However, I did enjoy this one. I'm giving it a 3.5, well, more like a 3.75. Even though I don't do point whatever typically, I'm giving it for this case because it's more than a 3, but a little bit less than a 4. So I'm rounding it to a 4 on official ratings, but it's a 3.75 officially, I guess. This one was good. It followed several people as they're trying to find this Indian diamond, which is called the Moonstone. It was stolen one night during a party when Rachel received it. And you see it in all these journal entries or retrospective, like documentation essentially, as they're writing down what happened, all of these perspectives on this event and these relations to the event and people surrounding the event. So I thought it was really interesting, and I liked the premise of it. I also liked that we were following a robbery as opposed to an actual murder. But like I said, it's very character driven at points, and I felt like I needed a bit more plot. I did listen to the audio straight while driving, so I didn't have time to take breaks in between, so maybe that impacted my experience as well. But I don't know if that would have impacted it for the better or for the worse if I had time to take breaks in between. But I don't know. I really did enjoy it overall. And like I said, officially 3.75, but 4 on all of the platforms. I've also read March Book 2, which is by John Lewis, and this chronicles his secondary, or what continues on from March Book 1. This really followed a lot of his freedom rides, and I thought it was really interesting. It was super impactful, and I was really excited to get my 3rd book in that series, or get the 3rd book from the series from my library. I'm very excited to know more, and it was so sad to hear about what happened with them being thrown in prison and all those different things. But at the same time, it's really important to learn those events and to see how the civil rights movement continued on. So I'm very excited and very interested to read more about that this month. I've also read Love and Olives by Jenna Welch. I gave this one 3 stars. This one was really long, and I struggled to continue picking it up. Every time I would read it, I would put it back down and struggle to keep engaged is my main complaint, I guess. It was also, I feel like, overly long for what it needed to be. It could have been maybe 100 pages shorter, 200 pages shorter, like 300 pages long, and then it would have been good. It did not need to be 500 pages. But it was interesting because it followed Olive, or Olivia maybe? I don't remember what her real name is. That's actually how it goes. But she goes by Liv, and she's reconnecting with her father, who is trying to find Atlantis. And she goes to Greece to find him and reconnect with him on her mother's request. And it kind of goes from there. They have been separated for many, many years. And it just had a lot of ups and downs for me, like enjoyment level wise. I did like how each chapter was about, or kind of was headed by, an item that he left behind at their house when he left them entirely. And I liked the overall twist and how it kind of showed different aspects, but I didn't feel like it was, I feel like I said, I felt like it was too long, and I felt like some parts were just maybe too drawn out. Yeah, the list was 26 items long, and maybe it could have been like 15, 14 items long. I also read Long Lost by Jacqueline West. This is a new release that came out, I think, in April, and this is a middle grade novel that has a lot of magical realism in it, and it is about a book, Fiona and her sister Aiden, or is it Arden? I cannot remember right now, but they go to this new town where her sister is a figure skater and she is closer to the rink, but Fiona is very disjointed from her friends. She doesn't want to be there, and she now goes to this library and she discovers this book, and she is so excited to read it, but then the book kind of disappears on her. So she needs to find out more, and as she reads this book, the book is very engrossing. I really enjoyed this one, actually. I'm not big for magical realism, but when I did read it, I thought it was just engrossing, and I couldn't put it down. I also thought that the elements of the book within the book were really fun, and I liked how the characters were all kind of connected to this town and the kind of spooky aspects. I didn't love the ending, but at the same time, maybe that's just me not loving magical realism as a whole, or not reading too much of it. So maybe if I read more, I would love that aspect. I don't want to give too much more away, but I did enjoy it a lot. So the last thing I've read was called A Year Full of Stories. This was by Angela McAllister, and it had 52 stories from all around the world, and it followed different holidays or different big festivals, and I really enjoyed this one. It is a middle grade or kids anthology, essentially, about different cultures and different even religious festivals, different religious themes, but also about different things. There was like Mayan, there was Japanese, there was African stories, there was stories from the Mexican culture, there were stories from South America, there were some stories from everywhere. There were so many wonderful stories, and I really liked seeing those little snippets of what people believed or what people have told down generations. It was a lot about myth and lore and legend, and some of them were on the grim side, so like grim fairy tales, not everyday normal fairy tales we normally would tell now, but I thought they were really fun. And I really liked seeing that. So I gave that one 5 stars, I believe. I couldn't complain about anything in that. And I liked the drawings and the little cute aspects. I think that is something I would like to recommend as just something to talk about multicultural wise. And it definitely did its best to include places from all across the globe as to, you know, there are 52 different stories for every part of the year. So let's talk life update. And I normally don't do these on my channel because my life is my life. And I mean, I'm always honest with you guys. I feel like honesty is important, and I feel like I don't want to lie. And I don't lie to you guys about things like this, or ever. I don't lie. I do omit privacy, because privacy is important. But I feel like this is really important to talk about, because I've been really struggling. And I talked about it a little bit in my last video, which is really funny because I didn't plan to sit down and wear the same sweater, but I did. But yeah, life's been really hard reading wise. And I mean, I'm filming this on the 18th, and as you just saw, I've read 6 books, and that's it. If you're new to my channel, that looks like a great number. But if you're not new to my channel, you might think that that's a very low number. And you're right. It's a very low number. And it's because I'm not feeling books. I mean, I'm enjoying what I'm reading, clearly. None of them have been bad, but I am just not able to read. And it's not something that I have been hating, but I have no desire to pick up my new books, and I have no desire to pick up my TBR, and I have no desire to do these things, which has been actually really hard, because at the same time as I want to, I have this FOMO of like missing out on Victober, and I want to participate in the readathons. I'm like, I just don't want to read. And I don't feel like there's anything wrong with saying that. First and foremost, I want to say, if you don't want to read, that's okay. There's no shame in being opposed to reading at the moment. Reading is supposed to be fun. So that's why I'm not beating myself up about this. But the other thing is that I have buddy reads that I am still committed to because I am excited about them. And I also have book club books that I'm still excited about, but I am never going to be putting those over my health. And I have talked to my book club or my buddy reads people, not exactly in the terms of telling them this, but I have talked to them, and I am excited to keep reading them. So if you are one of those people, which I will tell the books I will be reading soon, or I'm currently reading in a minute, but I'm still going to read the books, don't worry. It's just something that I wanted to say, that like, it's hard right now to read, and you know what? It's something that's okay. I'm struggling with reading right now, and I've decided that it's time to acknowledge that. And it's not something that I'm going to call a slump. I'm refusing to call it a slump, because that would imply something bad. I don't like it when people call it slumps, because you know what? Reading is not something that you have to do. Reading is a fun thing. Reading is a hobby. And if you call it a slump, I feel like that's saying you're required to read, which, unless you're doing it for school, you're not required to read. But basically, I am just not wanting to pick up many things. I have tried, and I have picked up many books from my library, and I have returned almost all of them, which is really sad. But at the same time, I'm facing the music. I'm facing it in myself that, you know what? It's just not happening. And it's not going to happen this month, and it might not happen next month, and it might not happen in December, but that's okay. I'm going to just see how it pans out, and I'm just taking this month easy. I'm reading the books I have committed to because I am really excited about them. But aside from those, we're not doing that. And it's also really interesting, and I wanted to speak up to this as well, in case anyone has some sort of fear that if you can't read a physical book, you're not physically reading, or you're not reading. I want to just say that that's baloney. I have not been able to physically read this book at all. I never physically read this, and that's okay. I tried, and I put it straight down. I could not physically read, and this entire month I have not been able to physically read a book. I have read some ebooks as best I can, and most of the books I've read have been on audio. That's the truth of it. And it's just how my brain is right now in taking information. And it's really weird for me because I normally am someone who's like, physical books are so good. They're the best books. But I have noticed a trend in myself. I've noticed that in the last, maybe it's the whole of 2021, but at the very least, the last 6 months, I would say, if I were to track the type of books I'm picking up, like the type of media I'm reading those books in, I would say physical format like this is the least likely type. I'm not even kidding. And it's kind of sad, but at the same time, I'm okay with that because I am reading the books on my shelves. It's just, I'm reading them through like an audiobook or through an ebook. I don't know why, but those forms are so much easier for me to ingest right now. And I don't know if it's my migraines are making it easier with that. I don't know. It's really strange. I don't know why that is, but I will take it. I'm embracing the fact that I'm now mostly an electronic reader. And as much as I used to be like, that's not what I want to do, I'm okay with it now because that's just going to be my reality. And until my migraines decide to ease off a bit more, that's just going to be how it is. So my upcoming books that I am in the middle of, or I'm going to be reading soon. I am currently in the middle of Mexican Gothic. I'm reading that with Amy from A Star Reads, and I am halfway through. I have yet to pick it up for this week because my brain has not wanted to read that. But I am very excited to continue on. I am loving the book so far, even though my brain's trying to tell me it's not. But it's very good, and I am really enjoying how gothic and spooky it feels. So I'm very excited to finish that one. And then I will be reading Ruth with Emily from Novelle Novels, and that one I have on audio, so that will be hopefully no problem. And if not, I also have access to an e-copy as well, and that's by Elizabeth Gaskell. Aside from that, I also have an e-copy of Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I will be reading with Danny from Spinelli Speaks. I still need to check with her for sure that she has her copy available, but if she doesn't, then I will be returning that book and we'll read it whenever she is able to, because honestly, if that's one less book I am reading this month, I'm okay with that. The only physical book I plan on reading this month is Halloween Party by Agatha Christie, as that one is one for a book club, and I'll be reading that one very soon. I plan to try picking it up and hopefully can focus on the plot. Yeah, I have high hopes, and I know that does not fulfill enough of TBR Clue, and let's get into that now. So for TBR Clue, we have several prompts that are not finished, and I don't know if I will finish them. The real question is this month, will I actually read 9 books? Normally, if I read anything, it's like I easily read 10, 12 books. So I can easily hit that 9 book mark, but I don't know if I will this month. So let's see. The first prompt that I need to fill is a character letter with the letter N. I'm going to be reading Mexican Gothic for that. I'm going to finish that book, no problem. Well, I say no problem. I'm going to finish that book. It might be a little struggle, but I will finish that book because I really want to. Then for a book club book, I also have on audio The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, which will be for my book club in November. And I might be reading that a bit too early, but it's an Agatha Christie. I might just read that in advance. But I also have Halloween Party for that prompt potentially. Then I have filled the prompt of a clue character with love and olives. And then I have to do a romance, which I am putting in the slot Ruth, as that one technically falls under romance on Goodreads. So I don't know how much romance is in there, but I'm taking it. And I'm gonna count that prompt, well, whenever I finish it, as finished. Then for the library room prompt, Long Lost is now going in there, as there's a lot of library discussion in that book. For TBR Vet, I'm gonna put the other Agatha Christie book that I read in that spot. I haven't done that, or I'm actually thinking of just putting the Oscar Wilde play in there, because I've owned this copy for a little while now and I haven't even touched the plays. So there we go. And then I read the book that matched my outfit, which was the Moonstone. Then I have to still read a kitchen book, which I have Arsenic and Adobo on my ebook Kindle, or on my library app, I should say, and I don't know if I'll read it. We'll see. And then I read a library book, which was March Book 2. So I don't know. Basically, when it comes to TBR Clue, I don't know if I'm going to read all the books that I need to for this, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes, and honestly, I'm not letting the pressure get to me. If I have a good day and I feel good enough on like Dewey's 24-hour readathon to fit in a kitchen prompt, I might just do that. I might just pick up a cookbook and read something. I just don't know what to do anymore. And I'm not pressuring myself because of that. I'm deciding to let go of the pressure and have fun. I'll still do my clue game in November. If I guess wrong, I'll pull a book. And if I don't if I don't read that book, it's not going to be the end of the world. If I give it a try and figure that it's just not the right time for me to read it, I'll save it on my shelves. If I don't like it, I'll DNF it and get rid of it. But I'm not going to force myself to read a book that I'm not liking. I know that goes against my rules, but honestly, the way this month is going, I don't want November to go badly, just for that sake. So I don't know how the rest of this month is going to go. Technically, I have 13 more days left, and I could read 20 more books in 13 more days. That's been what I did last month. But I also could read 2 more books in 13 more days. That's what I could do. So we'll see what happens. But this is just to say I've read 6 books in 18 days, and I am okay with that. I am not loving the idea of reading for the most part, but I'm excited with my buddy reads and my book club books, and yeah. So please let me know down below if you have read any of the books I talked about, what you've been reading so far this month, anything like that. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you are new here, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.